The sounding of the bell and the lighting of the candle bring us to this time and this place to learn and worship. The fading tones of the bell call our attention to the candlelight, a symbol of the inner light of wisdom that we seek. We are all treaty people. First Nations have walked this land for thousands of years. Their relationship with this land was the spiritual center of their lives. We are gathered on the traditional lands of the Nakota people and honor their stewardship. May we too honor and respect this land. The mission of St. James United Church is to love God, promote Christian faithfulness, foster a spirit of understanding and service to our community, and to seek strength to grow and change as God wills. For our opening prayer this morning and our call to worship, I simply took the first part of the of our creed statement from A Song of Faith. God is holy mystery beyond complete knowledge, above perfect description. Yet in love, the one eternal God seeks relationship, so God creates the universe and with it the possibility of being and relating. God tends the universe, mending the broken and reconciling the estranged. God enlivens the universe, guiding all things toward harmony with their source. Grateful for God's loving action, we cannot keep from sinning. So let us prepare ourselves. More voices, number 18, Lord prepare me, and you can sing quietly behind your masks while Jess sings out loud. One of the advantages of being married to a kindergarten teacher, an early years educator, is that you get to read all kinds of interesting books. And unfortunately, this just arrived in the mail. Jess has got a whole collection of books at home, but this one just arrived in the mail last week. It is called What is Given from the Heart. In our developing theme over the past months, we have been talking about developing our discipleship. And this story is all about just that. Written by Patricia M. McIsaac. And you can probably tell from the front cover. Here, I'll show it to the people out in the universe. You can probably tell by the front cover that it takes place in a black community, and you'll catch on. But the story is universal. It was tough times for Mama and me. We were already poor, but we got poorer last April when Daddy went to sleep on the front porch and never woke up. Mama cried and cried because Daddy didn't have a suit to be buried. Come June, we lost the farm and moved to a rundown shotgun house in the Bottoms. On Friday the 13th, it rained frogs. Everything flooded, and Smitty, my dog, disappeared. Misery loves company, Mama said, shaking her head as she swept water out the back door. I hugged her up close the way I always did when she was sad or when I was scared. Long as we have our health and strength, we are blessed, James Otis, Mama said, trying to sound brave. But things didn't get any better. We got an early snowfall in November, and Christmas was skimpy. But we made it through to the new year. For I realized it, February was upon us with Valentine's Day just 2 weeks away. On Sunday, Reverend Dennis made an announcement during service. Just as we always do, we'll be delivering love boxes to needy folk in our community, he said. Irene Temple and her little girl has lost everything in a fire. We must add them to our list. Next week, bring whatever you think might be useful to them. Remember, what is given from the heart reaches the heart. Jake Otis, we need to help out, Mama said on the cold walk home. I came back with, how are we going to do that, Mama? We ain't got nothing ourselves. Mama kept right on talking. Sister Bunch told me the daughter's name is Sarah. She's 7, 2 years younger than you. You can find a little bit of something for her, don't you think? I wasn't convinced. What do I have that a little girl would want? Now, said Mama. Remember what Reverend Dennis said? What is given from the heart reaches the heart. That night I lay warm and toasty under one of Mama's quilts. Still, it made me tremble to think about fire taking away what little we had. What can I give Sarah to make up for all that she's lost, I wondered. I considered the blue ribbon I'd won in the school spelling bee. Nah, the award was important to me, but it would mean nothing to her. I looked over at my beautiful sparkling rock, the one I'd found down by the creek. But how would that help, Sarah? You can't eat a rock. Unable to come up with anything good, I pulled the covers up over my head and drifted off to sleep. Come morning, I found Mama in the kitchen busy sewing. I know if we had a fire, I'd miss my aprons, Mama explained, so I decided to make Mrs. Temple one. But Mama, you're using your white tablecloth, the only nice thing you have. James Otis, unstitched with a loving heart. My hope is that this apron will give as much joy to Mrs. Temple as the tablecloth has given me. That made me study harder on what I could contribute. Maybe Sarah would like something to play with. But like my whistle from Dexter Benson's birthday party. But my spit was all over it. What about my crayons? I drew so many pictures with them, even though the black, pink, and dark blue were missing. No way I couldn't give her used crayons. And I couldn't give her my pencil that was just a nub and not much eraser left either. As time flew toward Valentine's Day, I fretted more and more. I considered giving Sarah a puzzle. It didn't bother me that 2 pieces were missing, but it might bother her. That wouldn't do. Not even with a bow on it. And neither would my capeless Superman Halloween costume. Then I remembered my book, Things That Roll. Mama had paid 10 cents for it at the resale shop. I read it every night until I'd memorized each word. And then I drew pictures of all of the stuff that rolled. Sarah might enjoy my book, I thought, but maybe she didn't like trucks and marbles and such. Still, it got me thinking. I gathered my crayons, my pencil, and some paper, and I got busy. On the Sunday before Valentine's Day, we were off to church. Along the way, Mama told me, as usual, the trustees will deliver the love boxes to the homes of the needy, but Reverend Dennis has invited the Temples to receive theirs at Olive Chapel so they can meet the congregation. The church was full. Mama beamed as she carefully placed the apron in the box. When we presented the Temples with their love box filled with all kinds of clothing, food, tools, and toys, Mrs. Temple was overcome with emotion. The congregation shouted, "Amen." Even so, Sarah seemed sad and afraid. She clung to her mama's arms and hid her face. I walked over to where she was standing. "Hi, Sarah," I said, sounding cheery-like. "My name is James Otis, and I'm pleased to meet you." "Same to you," she answered, looking at her feet. Sarah managed a smile as she stared at the book I'd made. Then real slow-like, she read the cover. "From my heart to your heart," by James Otis Petway. It's about a little girl named Sarah, and don't tell me, she said. I want to read about myself by myself. I can't believe it, she squealed. A book about me? Then she covered her mouth to catch a giggle. Seeing little Sarah happy made me happy too. I laughed out loud. I put some hard words in it so you can look them up. You sound like my teacher. Sarah pressed the book to her heart, closed her eyes, and whispered, "Thank you, James Otis. I will keep this book forever and ever." Walking home, Mama held my hand. "The Temples looked grateful," she said. "I think we reached their hearts." I said, "Mama's nodded. I'm proud of you, James Otis." "How come?" I asked. "'Cause you're you." In winter, night comes early. The sky was darkening and it had started to snow. I stuck my tongue out to catch a snowflake as Mama spun joyfully round and round. Suddenly, Mama stopped. "Look, there's something on our porch," she said. I rushed ahead, and there it was, a love box had been delivered to us. What's given from the heart is truly a story about the discipleship that we've been talking about for the past several weeks. So let us prepare ourselves to hear the scriptures. The first one I've chosen is Psalm 55. I will read verses 1 to 11 and 22 and 23. Listen to my prayer, O God. Do not ignore my plea. Hear me and answer me. My thoughts trouble me, and I am distraught because of what my enemy is saying, because of the threats of the wicked. For they bring down suffering on me and assail me with their anger. My heart is in anguish within me. The terrors of death have fallen on me. Fear and trembling have beset me. Horror has overwhelmed me. I said, oh, that I had the wings of a dove, I would fly away and be at rest. I would flee far away and stay in the desert. I would hurry to my place of shelter, far from the tempest and the storm. Lord, confuse the wicked, confound their words, for I see violence and strife in the city. Day and night they prowl about on its walls. Malice and abuse are within it. Destructive forces are at work in the city. Threats and lies never leave its streets. Cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. But you, God, will bring down the wicked into the pit of decay. The bloodthirsty and deceitful will not live out half their lives. But as for me, I trust in you. And second, I've chosen two more readings, both from Matthew. The first one is Matthew chapter 6, verses 31 to 34. So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek ye first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. And the second reading that I've chosen from Matthew is chapter 11, verses 28 to 30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Now, no doubt some of you have probably noticed that the scriptures that I read this morning were not the ones that I had listed on the Facebook page from the lectionary. I've deviated from the lectionary. I needed to find those scriptures this morning that would help us get through these unusual events in 2020. First off, I have to explain a couple of things. Way back in my former life, I used to conduct workshops on coping with stress, and I did that for school staff and students. Stress is important. We can't live without stress, but too much stress will destroy us. Stress is defined as any change that takes place in a person's life. And the bigger the change, the greater the stress, and the more energy it takes to cope with it. So things like moving, or changing jobs, or getting married, these are big changes. But there are even bigger ones. Even going on vacation can be stressful. It's the sudden change in activity and the engagement level. That's the thing that's stressful, the sudden change. Those of you who were teachers remember that June is always the busiest month of the year. It's a month of high activity, and all of it comes to a crashing halt on the 1st of July when you headed out to the lake or went on your annual trip. And the first thing you did was you spent a week in bed with headaches or cold because of the change, the sudden change from high activity into your vacation. We can't really escape from stress, but too much will destroy us. Over the years, we've called it by various names. In the First World War, of course, it was shell shock, and in the Second World War, it became battle fatigue. Now the common term is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. The next thing to remember is that it takes a year, a full year, to recover from any stress. A full year. So when we undergo a big change that has big stress, and we expend all of that energy coping with that stress, we shouldn't add to that by adding something else that requires more energy. So when you retire, of course, that's a big stressor. Don't move away immediately because that's an additional stressor, and it adds to the energy that you have to expend. Whenever anything big happens in life, sit still for a while. Sometimes it takes a good long while to let your body recuperate. I remember years ago being at a silent retreat at a Franciscan monastery, and the priest who was conducting the retreat said over and over again, listen to your disease, it's trying to tell you something. Listen to your body, it's trying to tell you something. Every time another stressor comes into our lives, it requires more energy just to get by. So it was 6 or 8 months ago that COVID-19 hit us, and we responded by expending a lot of energy just to cope. And we were doing fine with the lockdown, even with the high energy that we expended. But remember, before we could regain some of that energy, we were hit with other things like shopping for groceries that took even more energy. It became an ordeal, extra planning, more energy. Visiting friends and relatives online instead of in person required more energy. It's hard to do. Church services online rather than in person. More energy. And then other things hit us. Things like racial crises, and our energy level went up. Street protests and more violence. And all of a sudden, we're way up there. And every day there seems to be a new crisis, something more. Just last week, there was a racial attack in Brandon, Manitoba, just to the east of us. Just a few days ago, there was a gender bias attack in Moose Jaw. Moose Jaw, for crying out loud. There was a shooting of a family in Ontario. our stress level, these changes, all of this stuff keeps hitting us, and our energy expenditure gets higher and higher and higher. Among other things, just last week, and this happened, I went ballistic. I saw a short video. I just happened upon a short video as I was scrolling through YouTube looking for information. It described a plan about how to bulletproof your house without anybody else knowing what you were doing, hiding it away, keeping your house. I mean, my God, I overreacted. I just went ballistic. I wondered what was happening to things like trust and integrity and neighborhoods, and I found it really difficult to cope with the realization that people are seeking instruction about how to make their homes bulletproof. So we react. We react in various strange ways. We forget a meeting like I did last Tuesday. Last Tuesday, the Tuesday at 2 meeting, it wasn't until it was almost supper time I realized that it was that I had missed the 2 o'clock meeting just completely. And it was the following day that I looked at my telephone and realized that I had shut my ringer off and had forgotten to turn it back on, so I missed the call about the meeting. So, our minds just can't cope with one more thing. Sometimes people sleep more. Some people lose sleep. I was in my jammies by 8:30 last night. Sometimes we eat more, or we get headaches or tummy aches or anxiety attacks, or we become short-tempered. We avoid important tasks like doing a school assignment or writing a sermon by engaging in small things that have greater and immediate impact. I found myself yesterday washing the dishes rather than writing my sermon because it was just something I could do that produced results. Or we get exhausted and we just crash. And sometimes people crash really hard. We want to escape, just as we read in the song. We want to escape, but we cannot. If I had the wings of a dove, I would fly away to the desert and get rid of all of this. So remember the psalm, Psalm 55. Listen to my prayer, O God. Do not ignore my plea. Hear me and answer me. My thoughts trouble me, and I am distraught. Our current troubles are unique to us in our time, in our place, but stress and worries have been with us from the beginning of time. Our spiritual ancestors had ways of coping with stress that included turning to prayer just as a means of survival. Turning to God is an option. Turning to God can also mean turning to the disciples that are all around us, the disciples in this room, for instance. The prayer from Matthew. But seek ye first his kingdom and righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Matthew tells us to live in the here and now, focusing on doing what we must do in this moment and not obsessing about the future or things far away that we can do nothing about. May God help us to do just that. This morning, I asked for Jessica's permission to tell you this story, and she said, okay. Yesterday, my wife had a headache, and we knew that we were coming to the church for music practice with Bona. Jess wanted to avoid it, of course. I wanted to run away. But she forced herself. The act of singing, focusing on that here and now activity, did a world of good, and on the walk home, she commented about how much better she felt. The other passage from Matthew that I read was, "Come to me, all you who are wearied and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from the gentle and humble heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This might seem like really simple things to do to cope with a really complex problem. But we find that if we start to understand the problem, it's really not very complex at all. Stress times means expending a lot of energy. Added stress means more energy. Simplify. Focus on the here and now. Pray. Talk with another disciple. All these things help lighten the load and reduce the amount of energy that you need to expend. May we all follow our own best advice, simplify our lives in this time of stress, and turn to our spiritual health to sustain us. May this be so. Amen. The solo following the sermon is "Let There Be Peace on Earth." I really have to thank Bona for choosing all the music for today and for playing the piano and for coercing Jessica into.
It wasn't that hard.
We do have a virtual offering for those who are online. You can, and those of us who are on par, our offering comes just off our bank account. And of course, for those who feel so inclined, there is a collection plate at the back of the room as you leave. For announcements this morning, you notice up here there is a display of things from Alexander Church. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I had done a graveside service for Isabel Hood, who was born Isabel Gillespie. Alexander Church was on their farm property, close to the 2 miles west of the Malo farm, and she had inherited over the years a whole bunch of things, and she doesn't know, family heirlooms and things like that. She wanted a good home for all of this stuff. The table that's there comes from Alexander Church. Its very twin is down the hill at Ellsborough United Church, and it's exactly the same. So it must have been. I don't know history very well, but this style of table must have been very popular way back in about the year 1900. So you're welcome to look at these. They are old Bibles, old hymnals, some of them from 1890, thereabouts. Very old stuff. And I don't know what we're going to end up doing with it. I will leave it on display for a while. For Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday at 2 will go on without me. I have to be in Regina. Tim has a doctor's appointment, so I have to be there. And but the Tuesday at 2 meeting can go on without me. Gay Moss has already provided some contact information for decision makers about the reopening the local hospital. And she has some concerns about that. I'm sure she'll bring that up on Tuesday. And the other announcement, we just found out last night that the elementary school in Fort Qu'Appelle,
Indian Head.
in Indian Head, will not be opening. I had predicted that schools would start closing by the end of September, beginning of October. I missed it by quite a few weeks. Indian Head, there has been a case of COVID identified in one staff member, and so they've closed the elementary school. They'll be starting out online about the 10th of this month. So, in our prayers for the people, let us pray for those teachers and children who are returning to school. Help them to be safe. Another of my prayers for the people is going to sound perhaps a little strange because you people don't know this guy, Neither do I, but I know people like him. As a matter of fact, I have been like him. The man's name is Steve Scalise. I think that's how you pronounce it. He did something so colossally stupid, and so colossally stupid in public, that someday soon, when he wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning, a week from now or a year from now, and he'll just pound his head against the headboard of the bed and say, how could I have done such a stupid thing? What he did was, there was an activist in the United States, a lawyer by the name of Ady Barkan, who is he suffers from ALS, the same thing that Stephen Hawking had. And as a matter of fact, he speaks with a Stephen Hawking voice, a computerized voice. But he's an activist and a public speaker, and he had interviewed Joe Biden and there were news clips out of his interview with Joe Biden. He is asking questions with his computer voice, and Joe Biden was answering. So Steve Scalise, party whip for the Republicans in Congress, took one of these newspaper clips and he found the same computerized voice, and he changed the questions that Barkan was asking Joe Biden so that Joe Biden's responses were entirely different than, like, you're shuddering, right? When this man wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning, realizing how colossally stupid that was, he's going to be so embarrassed. I don't know how he will cope. I've done colossally stupid things, but I've been able to make my apologies directly to the people that I affected. So in my prayers for the people this morning, I am going to pray for Steve Scalise and all those like him who just do those very stupid reactionary things, and they don't realize how much damage they cause to other people and how huge is the damage that they cause to themselves. Their own personal integrity absolutely destroyed. They need to be healed. And for those people who feel compelled to make their homes bulletproof, God help us all. God help them. And for those people whose hate of others compels them to attack, sometimes to shoot or stab or kill, they need our prayers, they need our help, they need our discipleship. Closer to home, we have people who are ill in hospital, going into hospital. May our thoughts and prayers be with them. For our closing prayer, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Our closing hymn is More Voices 173, Put Peace in Each Other's Hands. So as we go out into the world this week, let us go out being gentle with ourselves and gentle with other people. Put peace into each other's hands. Take care of yourselves. Let us all take care of ourselves. Understand that we need to conserve our strength and our energy because we have a long way to go. Go now in peace. Amen. You can choose an amen.
No, we didn't. Do you want to do amen?
Sure, let's do an amen.
It's on 194.
More Voices 194. 194.
Yeah. Amen with the hallelujah.